I'd like to introduce Amanda Bollans, who's from Nova Entertainment. And Amanda is the Chief People Officer and of Australia's fastest growing audio entertainment business, and Amanda's responsible for leading the people experience function within the business. And Amanda has extensive experience in people-centered leadership positions across a range of industry and geographies. And she has a passion for creating environments which encourage people to thrive. Welcome, Amanda, and over to you.
Thank you. Let me do the tech and share my screen, and then we'll get into it. Thumbs up, you can see my screen. Brilliant. So thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here in the office, virtually, in the comfort of the Nova home. I'm really excited to be here today. I have been part of the Human Synergistics family for over 10 years now. First started with doing my LSA, very confronting, but absolutely loved it and have used several tools across several businesses over the years. So I'm going to take you through today a bit of a, hate the word, but a journey of Nova Entertainment and some of the highs and lows of what we have been through so far using the OCI, so the cultural inventory. I am just obviously having a bit of a freeze there. Okay. So let's kick off. So do you know Nova? Nova is really known for being a radio business. So if you're in Australia, we're almost in every national city. We also own the Smooth brand, and we've also got a couple of smaller stations. So 5AA, a talkback station, which is really where the business actually started. We've also got Star 104.5 in Gosford. But over the years, we've really transformed. We're privately owned. Our key shareholder is Lachlan Murdoch. And we've really transformed into becoming one of Australia's leading audio businesses with one of the biggest podcast networks in the country. I do listen in most days, and there's fights with what you listen to, with whether you're listening to the Breakfast Team or whether you're listening to the hottest podcast. But we're a business of about 500 employees, and we're a really passionate, creative business. So if you didn't know Nova, hopefully that gives you a little bit of a flavour. So now we look at why did we start looking at our culture. So I started with the business in August last year. I can't believe I've almost been a year. And coming into Nova, it was just such a change from environments I had been at previously. We were really clear about setting a new strategy and agenda for the next 3 years, where we were transforming from this perceptive just radio business to all of audio, even though we have been in the all of audio space for several years now, and hold predominant share in the marketplace. There's a perception in the external market when you hear Nova, and a perception internally that perhaps we weren't quite there yet. We also knew from a revenue mix perspective that most of our revenue was going to come from the total picture of audio, with more people listening, particularly impacted by the pandemic. So we've always measured engagement. In fact, we're actually obsessed with it. I couldn't believe that pretty much every single leader in the business was already KPI'd on it. But we knew that with a shift of strategy over the next 3 years, that we really needed to be ahead of the curve in actually saying, well, actually, let's get underneath and work out if we do change this strategy. It's not radical change, but it is change. It is perceptive change, and it is revenue change in terms of the way you go out to market. So why don't we get ahead of the game and actually have a look? Because we have always also tracked that our EBITDA matches engagement. So as soon as our EBITDA goes down, engagement goes down, and vice versa. So we thought, engagement is obviously, top. It's the mood. We thought, let's get underneath and really actually look at our culture. So we launched a Project Blue. Corinne, well done, is in our bright blue colour. I couldn't find anything in the wardrobe today. I've got the boring navy on. But we launched Project Blue, and we thought, let's tackle culture in a way that is holistic. So we didn't just want to do an inventory and then say that's who we want to be and do nothing with it. We launched it as a holistic project, knowing it would take a couple of years, and we were really okay with that, knowing that our next stage of our strategy is a 3-year cycle at minimum. And so as part of that, we said, let's start with actually looking at how we activate our strategy. Then let's measure our culture. And then over the next 24 months, we've got a pretty aggressive timeline around how we relook at our purpose, redo our ambition, or otherwise known as mission. How do we have a look at whether our values are actually aligned to the desired culture that we want to build, which I'll talk you through. And then the last phase will be around leadership. So we're about week 48 into the plan. So I'm really going to share with you the highlights of phase 1, which is purely around the action planning that we've taken initially around our culture. So enter Human Synergistics, our key partner. We're so pleased to have been working with Dom. He's been a great partner, and Corinne, who did our OCI and our accreditation. We definitely invested a lot into this, and so want to make it successful. As I mentioned, 48 weeks in, you can see I'm going to take you through, how we started, where we got to in terms of the vision state, our cultural discovery, bit of the roadmap, and give you a couple of highlights on really how we activated our culture. And we've still got a long way to go. So we started with actually key input from our teams. If you remember from that first slide in terms of how we launched the project, we said we're a really consultative business. We love storytelling. Audio and entertainment is what we do. And so there's definitely no executive team sitting in a boardroom coming up with this stuff, even in terms of developing our strategy. So we actually went to our teams, and you can see Dom has highlighted there in the middle of the screen. He's got his face there. He was very much so part of this with us, where we went to them and said, if we are transforming our business, what does that look like to you? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? And we got lots of feedback around, we actually feel like it is a big transition. You're sort of labeling it that it's not. We believe we will attract new types of employees. There'll be new competitors, etc. So this was really good engagement, because people were part of developing the strategy, but they were also helpful in terms of validating that our project plan around our culture ambition was heading in the right direction, that we did really want to look at it holistically, and that they are on the same page as us. They wanted to help in that way too. They didn't want it to just be a tick box exercise, which was really, really great. We then engaged with over 100 employees. So if you think about that, that's about 20% of our workforce, to start colouring in. And what the colouring in did is tell us what our desired culture should be. And so again, Dom partnered with us in over 10 sessions. We didn't put some of the circumplexes up there where people coloured in yellow, but this was all done virtually, and we had a lot of fun with it. But you can see the key takeaway there is the predominant culture that people wanted was more so in the constructive cluster of blue. Little bit of red there, and I'll talk you through how that plays out in our culture. But people were really energized by saying, you're actually asking me, and I'm actually part of this company. So again, it was a really engagement driver, as well as us really genuinely asking authentically that they are part of the culture, they're part of our DNA. So 240 questions later, we think we clocked around 10,000 minutes in uncovering what our current culture is. And we actually had an 80% participation rate, which compared to our engagement scores was actually really high. So even though there was a lot of questions to answer to map out what our current culture is, because we had done that process up front where people were part of it, they were really excited to go, oh, we were part of mapping out what our desired culture looks like. I wonder what our current was. So again, through a lot of storytelling, we told the story. You know, this was key in our town hall that we have monthly. It was in all of our conversations. And you can imagine we do a lot of internal marketing. We had some of our celebrities talking about this, you know, it was everywhere. But the key takeaway here is to say that it's a bit of a cliche, but it is a bit of a good to great story. So, you know, again, from prior organizations that I've worked with and been part of, I almost looked at this a few times to go, is that real? Like, did we answer that correctly? And really it's because, and it's not to gloat, it's literally to say we have a lot of work to do. And if you work at Nova, you will know there is always a lot of opportunity. But just to see that our predominant cluster actually was constructive. And for me, that was so exciting because it felt like we had a really good base to work off. If you have a look at the extended style there at position number 9, competitive, that told us a lot and it really validated what we already knew in a fact-based way, that we were absolutely competing against each other internally instead of competing out in the external market. And we knew that that was going to be the stop for us in terms of achieving our strategy. So it's absolutely one we are obsessed with. We absolutely have not nailed it yet, but we've definitely got some plans in place to minimize that. That's one of our key focus areas. We also know that that drives approval too, so that number 3 position. And we are such a culture on relationship, but what we found were people were getting relationships mixed up with the need to be liked and to be seen versus actually having constructive relationships, which is obviously shifting to affiliate of the number 2 position. So we then said, how do we activate this? How do we make this part of everything that we do? And most importantly for Nova, how do we make it fun and localize it? Because we operate very much so across our 6 marketplaces, although we are a national business in many respects. So we invested heavily into what we called culture coaches. So they're not people that are sitting in the HR team. They're not executives. They're literally people who were natural influencers in the business. They attended a 3-day boot camp with Human Synergistics on actually understanding what sits underneath all the amazing data that sits underneath all of those beautiful colors on a page. And the reason we did that is because we're such a social business that we didn't want people to just think action planning was tactical or action planning was just social events. So we really wanted them to also get creative and do things in their own way. So I'm going to play now a video which shows you can see Andy in the middle there was one of our culture coaches from Sydney, masked up because obviously we did all of this predominantly the start of the activation during a lockdown. And so they had to get really creative. So this first clip tells you a lot about our business in terms of how we communicate. So listen in, there's not a visual. I hope you enjoy the clip.
I don't know if you knew, but yes, it's true. Nova Sydney's going blue. I don't know if you knew, but yes, it's true. Nova Sydney's going blue.
I hope you enjoyed that. Lucky it wasn't me rapping. But we were so excited when our culture coaches said, Amanda, do you mind if we get really creative? I was like, go wild. Never envisaged that. So they said, come to our team meet, which is their local meeting in terms of they communicate what's going on. They said, this is how we're going to communicate our results for our market. Are you sure you're okay if we get really creative? And obviously enter a rapper, which was just brilliant. But we didn't play the whole clip, obviously, because it's quite long, but it actually does go through all of the data and all of the insights and all of the concepts just in a really creative way. So I was just playing it and people were walking by and they all walk by doing their signals. So it's a bit of fun. And again, we got the message across in a data-driven way, but they did it in their own way. The next one I wanted to show you is, in terms of activation, is just another example of how we're explicitly trying to draw the links to blue in all that we do. So in June was Pride Month, and we are obviously mad advocates, and we launched the Welcome Here initiative. If you don't know more about it, definitely have a look. In terms of building an inclusive workplace, we really wanted to celebrate it. And so what we are trying to do in all of the initiatives is link back to how we're growing blue. And so the initiative that I'm going to show you next is the link we drew to belonging and being yourself and being okay to be yourself at work, to self-actualizing. And sort of this is a bit of a demonstration of how we celebrated Pride Month and drew the link in our own way.
I am who I am.
I am who I am.
I am who I am, and I'm fabulous.
I am who I am.
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 So again, another demonstration of just creative activation, and things are already happening in the business, which is why we already have a little bit of a layer of blue. So it's really about how we elevate and activate. So I wanted to then just touch on a few key challenges. No story is perfect. Keeping it alive has definitely been a challenge, and something I've faced in prior organizations where we're always really excited about the start of the activation. But I think I mentioned to you, we know this is at least a 24-month activation. And so the critical part there has been the culture coaches. And I think that why we've had a little bit of a lull at the start of the year is we're a little bit slow starting on our strategy. And secondly, with the unfortunate great resignation, which I'm sure you're all feeling in some respects, we have had a couple of our amazing culture coaches leave. And so as a result of that, what are we doing about it? We are retraining more culture coaches because it must live on. We can't just have this drop off. The second point to make there is making culture actions that matter. I mentioned to you we're such a social business. And if as soon as we take the eye off the ball a little bit, some of our culture coaches or markets really just want to have social events, and it's okay if they're drawing the link, but we know that we want to do more than that in terms of driving our culture. And so we have a 3-tier plan on, yes, there's the social events. Yes, there's the actual action planning in the middle, but we know we've also got that holistic action plan to support it as well. So we're in good stead, but it's definitely a learning for us on how easily you revert back to what you're used to and what you love and what you know. We're in week 48 of the journey. So again, that's long, and even within the HR team, you can lose focus on it as well with other day-to-day priorities that come up. So, our coaching from Dom has just been stay focused, implicit, explicit messages, draw the connections to all that you do. And then lastly, I've got repeat, repeat, repeat. We just keep repeating what we do, repeat the message. And our CEO is actually fantastic at this. He makes culture in some respect a focus at every monthly town hall. And he says, we tell the story, and then we tell it again. And they still don't hear, but we're going to tell it again, Amanda. So we've got some good people around us, but definitely I would say it's hard work, but it's good work, and we know that we're definitely starting to already see the results and feel the movement in our culture, which will naturally translate to our results. So our top tips are implicit and explicit messaging. Definitely choose passionate people. Not that people in HR aren't passionate. You know, some of our culture coaches are in HR, but the definite difference that I've seen at Nova is the passionate people that will go above and beyond their day jobs. And if we give them in true achievement style, if you give them the agenda, you make them part of that agenda, and you just don't let them be so corporate and do their thing. They're going to have a lot more fun with it, and you're still going to get the outcome.
Stop sharing. Well, folks, we have, it seems like Amanda has temporarily frozen. So we'll give her a few minutes to see if she can jump back on. But what a fantastic story. I love the fact that they use the culture data to leverage it and make it their own. And so I say 10,000 minutes of Nova Entertainment, listening to their people and crowdsourcing the kind of culture that would get the best out of them and help them to deliver on their and support their ambition. So I think what we will do is while we're trying to get Amanda back, we may proceed. I see that we've got quite a few questions, and it looks like we've got Amanda. Amanda, how are you?
I'm good. I'm back.
Sorry to lose you, but I'm glad that we've got you back, because we do have a few questions. Everybody's super, super curious about how you engage the culture coaches, how you identified them, and, what was the best way to do that?
Sure. So we had Project Blue. We were a working group probably about 3 months before we sort of launched our OCI. So we, again, used those people who were a cross-section of the business. There was 2 executives, 2 from another leadership team, and a handful of people that heard about the project and literally put up their hands. We then asked them to go out into the business and just have conversations with people about who's passionate about culture. We didn't care about hierarchy, and we quite literally said the only requirement was that there needs to be 1 per market, so 1 in each of our 6 kind of office-based sites. We had conversations with them. 2 of them sort of said, oh, not for me, when they kind of knew the workload that was involved. So we engaged others. And then obviously we set up a very clear framework on what was their role, what was the expectation, what was the project, what was the boot camp. And I think, we just set very clear expectations, and they were so excited to be on board, which was great.
Excellent. We've got more questions than we've got time to go through, but I'll just ask you one more, and that is, how did you get the leadership on board? That's always the sort of one of the big questions that we are asked.
So because we're obsessed with engagement, that was probably an easier shoe-in, if I'm honest. But all I will say is, as soon as you see a beautiful graph, which I didn't put up today because it's a bit dull, frankly, but as soon as you see that direct correlation between engagement and EBITDA, and knowing that you need to grow by double digits to do something different, it's an absolute slam dunk. So I always like the data-driven approach, because it speaks much more than I can.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much, Amanda. It was a great story. Folks, we didn't get to all the questions, so we have recorded them. We'll see what we can do about coming back to you. Thanks so much, Amanda. And for those of you still with us, I'm going to invite you to answer another live poll. And this time, the question is, how much focus is your organisation placing on culture in the next 12 months? How much focus is your organisation placing on culture in the next 12 months? You can hear that Amanda's Nova Entertainment have got a commitment of a couple of years. They're in week 48. So we're interested in what is happening in your organisation. Okay, very encouraging in that we have most organisations at the moment, 23%, a great deal of attention, which is fantastic to see.